Straight Shift with the Car Chick, the podcast that's all about cars, buying, selling, fixing, and driving, and sometimes pretty fast if you're the car chick. Now, here she is.
Happy New Year, everyone. You know, we get to the end of the year and we start thinking about how we're going to change our lives going into the next year. We want to make all these New Year's resolutions to shed our bad habits and take on some newer, healthier, more productive ones. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's every year I say, you know, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to lose a little weight. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to procrastinate less. Well, and I don't know about you guys, but I say these things every year, and it just doesn't always happen. But I bet you didn't know that there are some New Year's resolutions that your car wishes you would make. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Straight Shift. So if your car could talk, and mine does, you know, Maggie and I have these conversations all the time, and she's constantly reminding me of these things. So this content today is really from her to you so that you end up taking better care of your car. But here's the thing. It's not just good for your car. These resolutions will also help you stay safer and save money in the long run. So number one, change your oil on time and all your other regularly scheduled maintenance. You wouldn't believe how many people slack off on their oil changes. You get busy. I get it. We're always running around. And for people that drive a lot of miles every year because maybe you're in sales or real estate and you're just driving all over hell and half of Georgia, it takes a lot of effort and planning to take the time to stop and make that appointment and go into the shop and get your oil changed. But that's one of the single most important things that you could do for your car. Changing your vehicle's oil, as well as all the other fluids, at the proper maintenance intervals that are either defined by the manufacturer, or sometimes you need to do it a little more often because the manufacturer's guidelines are a little too loose, in my opinion. For example, you should not go 10,000 miles or 15,000 miles between oil changes. I don't care what BMW and Mercedes and Audi tell you. I've seen the oil after that mileage, and it looks like a pint of Guinness. It's just not good. So you never want to go more than 7,500 miles on an oil change. And that's if you use a good quality full synthetic. But on the positive side, these days, you don't have to go every 3,000 miles. That's a very outdated number. Oils today are so much better than they used to be. And the newer cars themselves have tighter engine tolerances, and they're just made better. So you don't have to do that every 3,000 mile oil change thing. That's one of the myths. And some folks in the industry want to perpetuate that myth because obviously that has you coming in to the shop more often and they make more money. But it's both a waste of your time, your money, and bad for the environment. So get your oil changed, you know, every 5,000 typically if you have, you know, a newer car. And by newer, I mean, you know, within the last 15 years. And, you know, you use natural oil, but I would encourage you to switch over to a good synthetic oil because you can go longer. And most cars will be perfectly happy using a higher quality synthetic oil. Yes, those oil changes cost a few more dollars because the synthetic oil is a little more expensive than the regular stuff, but you have to do it less often. So how much is your time worth? And you're putting less waste oil back into the environment. So be sure that you make a resolution to stay on top of your maintenance, change that oil on time. If you're not sure how long to do it, you know, check your owner's manual that's in your car, get online, Google it. All the owner's manuals are online now, you know, from your manufacturer's website. If it says the interval is 10,000 or 15,000 miles, I'm sorry, but don't believe it. That's going to just get you into trouble. So 7,500 miles max, but schedule time to do it. It's a whole lot better to make time now to change your oil than to spend $6,000 and the time to put in a new engine, because it really doesn't take that much to do a lot of damage to your engine. New Year's resolution number 2 that your car wishes you would make: perform regular checks of all the safety equipment on your car. The beginning of each month is a good time to check your tires, check the belts and hoses, look at your wiper blades, check all your light bulbs, your turn signals. If you've got a couple people in your family, just do it together. It only takes about 10 minutes. And that way you can see, do you have all of your taillights, or is one burned out? For those of us that live in states that have inspections, that only comes around once a year. And Murphy's Law says that 2 of your taillights will burn out about a week after you get the car inspected. And the next thing you know, you're driving around without all the lights that you need, and it's not as safe, and you're likely to get pulled over and get a ticket, because that's just how it works. I live in South Carolina, where we have no inspections, and you would not believe how many unsafe cars are on the road. So get in the habit of doing just a little monthly check on your car. It's something that you can do yourself. Just look at the tread on your tires, make sure that still got some good tread depth on there, that they seem to be wearing pretty evenly. And that's something your mechanic should be checking at every oil change anyway. If you don't know how to check your belts and hoses, that's okay. That's something that your mechanic should be doing at the oil changes. But you can check your own light bulbs. You can check your brake lights if you got a buddy to stand behind you while you press the brake pedal. And you can certainly check your wiper blades. Make sure you've got windshield wiper fluid. These are really super easy basic checks that you can do in your own driveway. And it will make sure that your car is in good, safe shape to be out on the roads. And number 3 is replace critical high wear items before the situation becomes dire and something breaks and you end up stranded on the side of the road. Most people neglect these items because they're not planned for. People aren't keeping up with, okay, at about this many miles, I can expect these things to go wrong. It's really important to read your maintenance schedule in your owner's manual to at least get a ballpark idea of when certain things need to be done. When should you change your transmission fluid, your power steering fluid? How often should you, have to change that timing belt or a serpentine belt? These things are guidelines in your manual. Obviously, it differs depending on how you drive, as well as the quality of parts that you use and several other factors, but there are some decent guidelines out there that you can educate yourself on. And that allows you to do a few things. Number 1, it lets you plan for maintenance. Very few people are disciplined enough to keep a little separate savings account that they put a little money into every month, so that when it's time for new tires, or it's time for new brakes, or it's time for that fluid flush, there's a few $100 to $1,000 sitting in that account so that you can go ahead and do it, instead of being shocked when your mechanic says, hey, these fluids are really nasty, or, you've got some play in this suspension component, it's time to replace that ball joint. Most people think, I don't have, $300, $600, $1,000 right now. So they just don't do the maintenance. Some of it is because people don't trust that the mechanic is telling them the truth. And to be fair, there's a lot of great mechanics out there that are very honest, and they are going to tell you what your car needs, and it's going to be the truth, and they genuinely have your best interests at heart. Unfortunately, like in every industry, there are some not so trustworthy people, and I have seen it over the years where mechanics will tell you you need something when, you don't really, at least not yet. Unfortunately, this has been proven to happen more often to women than to men, because people expect women not to know as much and to be more concerned about safety than the men on average. So it's important to educate yourself. And if your mechanic tells you, hey, you need a new whatchamajuzit, ask what that means. Ask why. Ask them to prove it to you. If they say you need a fluid flush, ask them to show you a sample of the fluid that's currently in your car and show you that it's dirty. They can do that. They all have these cute little trays that they can put a drop of your fluid in, and you can see what your fluid looks like as compared to what the fluid should look like brand new. If they say you've got play in your ball joints or you need a new tie rod, these are all suspension components. Have them put your vehicle up on the lift and show you what they mean. So that way you can know if they're being honest with you. Hopefully you have a good mechanic that you can trust. But budget for these items and don't neglect it, because it's a lot better to find $300 to do that transmission flush today than to find $4,000 next year when your transmission falls apart and you need a new one. So don't neglect these critical maintenance items on your car. Number 4, take better cosmetic care of your car. I can't believe how many vehicles I see, come into the shop or just driving down the road that look like toxic waste jumps. They're absolutely filthy inside and out. Every mechanic probably has a story of them pulling a car into their shop and getting in it and feeling like, oh my God, I need a hazmat suit just to get in this vehicle. Do not let your car get that bad. It's bad for your car. It's really disgusting. And why would you want to drive around in a toxic waste jump with all that gross stuff and germs? So make it a habit of washing your car regularly, especially if you live somewhere that you actually have winter, because all the salt that they put on the roads to combat the ice, that really erodes your paint, all the underside of your car. That's why I don't buy northern cars, because they're always rust buckets. But one thing that can help mitigate that and extend the life of your northern car is by keeping it washed, including the underside. A lot of car washes have monthly memberships, and you pay $20 a month and you get unlimited car washes. That can be a great thing to do. Or, once every couple, 2-3 months, get a good detail person to come out and detail your car or take it to a detail shop. Keep your car clean. It will increase and hold the value of your car over time. So if you plan to resell it, you're going to get more money for a car that has been well cared for than for a car that obviously has just, looks like it's from a Mad Max movie. And number 5, resolve to pay attention. Resolve to be a more attentive driver, which translates to a safer driver. Driving really requires 99% of your brain cells, and it's amazing how distracted we allow ourselves to get, almost as if driving is the secondary activity that we're doing while we are doing and thinking about something else, whether it's something simple like jamming to the radio or chatting with your passengers, or if you're, God forbid, on the phone, texting, checking emails, doing things that you should never be doing in your car. Even if you have the Bluetooth, it's still a distraction. So resolve to be an attentive driver and to recognize that when you get behind the wheel of a car, that should be your primary focus. That is the activity that you are doing. Simply paying attention will reduce your chances of getting into an accident significantly, because the number one cause of accidents is not speeding, is not drinking, it's distractions. It's not paying attention. And that's not just you causing an accident. That's you being able to avoid getting into an accident caused by the idiots around you who are not paying attention. This is something that we call situational awareness. As a race car driver, we learn these techniques because when you are driving around a racetrack at over 100 miles an hour, 3 inches off the bumper of 4 other cars, and anything crazy can happen, you have to know everything that is going on around you at all times and know where you are, where they are, what's going on, where can you put your car if something crazy happens so that you're safe. Those are skills that translate very well to commuting up I-77 in the mornings. So learning that situational awareness and paying attention so that you are aware of your surroundings is going to significantly reduce your chances of having an unfortunate incident happen to you. We always want you to be safe. I'm going to take just a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have some more New Year's resolutions that your car wishes you could make. Do you hate car shopping? Do you worry about being taken advantage of, or about finding the right car at a fair price? Buying a car can be a frustrating and time-consuming experience. But what if you could get a great deal without having to do a ton of research, without having to haggle, and without the fear of buying a lemon? You can. As your personal car shopper, the Car Chick will help you pick the perfect car based on your unique lifestyle, budget, and personality. She'll handle all of the legwork and negotiating for you. All you have to do is sign the papers and take the keys. It's that easy. To learn how the Car Chick can save you time, money, and hassle on your next car purchase, give us a call at 888-575-2138. That's 888-575-2138. Or visit us on the web at thecarchick.com.
Ah, the Car Chick is back for more Straight Shift.
We're back talking about New Year's resolutions that your car wishes you would make. Before the break, we talked about the importance of staying on top of your maintenance and keeping your car in good shape, both mechanically and cosmetically, and being a more attentive driver on the road. And that leads to New Year's resolution number 6 is consider attending a driving school. Now, I know what you're thinking. I went to driving school in high school. That's how I got my license. I don't need to go to a driving school. Well, the driving that you learn in driver's ed, and I know it's probably changed, although from what I've seen, I think it's gotten considerably worse over the years from when I took driver's ed when I was 15 years old, and we won't say how long ago that was, but those types of driver's ed classes, they teach the kids how to pass the test so they can get their license. I've not seen a lot of them, especially the ones that are taught in the schools. Some of your private driving schools are definitely better, but they're still very focused on learning the rules of the road. How do you pass the written test? How do you get through the road test with the instructor or from the inspector from the DMV so that you can get your license? They don't all focus on the true driving skills that will make you a safer and better driver. Now, most adults have not been to a driving school since they were 15 or 16 years old and took driver's ed and got their license way back when. And we think, oh, I've been driving, all these years. I'm a perfectly good driver. You think that, but I am here to tell you, you're probably not. And I don't mean to be a jerk saying that. It's just a reality. Most people get out there on the road and they're just aiming. They're just kind of pointing the car in the direction they want to go, trying to be safe about it. Most people more or less obeying the rules of the road. But that's not driving skill. That's paying attention to the rules of the road. And granted, that's half the battle. But a lot of good driving and what helps you to avoid accidents, like I was talking about earlier with situational awareness, it's also about car control. If someone slams on their brakes in front of you and you don't have one of these fancy new collision mitigation systems in your car, or somebody pulls out in front of you, changes lanes suddenly in front of you, something falls off the back of a truck in front of you, somebody spins out next to you. There's all sorts of crazy things that happen on the road all the time and cause accidents. Do you know how to control your car and what to do to handle those situations? Most people don't. I'm an instructor at Carolina Motorsports Park for the Turn 1 racing and driving education school down there on the racetrack because that's my home track. So I'm out there with students all the time who are, bringing their car to the racetrack and, learning to race. And it's not just about learning to race. Part of it is because, let me tell you, there is just nothing more fun in the universe than doing that. But the skills that you learn out there with the car control at those speeds and the precision that requires, those skills translate so easily onto the road and you become a much better driver. One of the students I had last year was a really great guy. He's a general manager of a car dealership. And so he's done these ride and drive things for the manufacturers all the time. And, being a guy who's into cars, he thought that he's a really good driver on the road. This getting out on the racetrack will be easy because he's already a good driver. Well, I think he was a little uncertain when he saw that his instructor was a woman, but especially when I told him, as I tell all of my first-time students, we're not going to go fast today. We're going to instead learn where to put the car. And that confused him, but we got out there on our first session. And I know with a lot of the male students, I have to just take that first session and let them kind of work out their ego on the track and let them realize themselves that they are not nearly as good as they think they are. So after the first session, and I was showing him the line and where to put the car on the track, we pulled back into the paddock and he turns off the car and he looks at me and he goes, I thought I was a really good driver, but you know what? I really suck. And I said, yeah, you do, but that's okay because everybody does when they first start out. And the fact that he recognized that was great. And we were able to really then attack the skills that he needed to get better as the day went on. And he made wonderful progress. So it showed him very clearly and almost rudely that the skills that he had been implementing on the road for the past 30 years that he'd been driving were terrible and did not serve him at all on the track. And so that's why going to a driving school, even as an adult, to learn some better skills. And you don't have to go to a high performance driving school at a racetrack like that. There are a lot of driving schools that will teach adults who have been driving for many years, but maybe just want to be more confident behind the wheel and become a better and safer driver, build on the skills that started when they were a teenager. So just if you're interested in doing that, you can usually get private instruction. Just get on Google and Google adult driving schools in your area. And trust me, lots of things will crop up. There are several schools in the Carolinas that do this. And for the adults, it's usually private instruction. So you can really tailor it to the skills that you need to develop and not have to, kind of worry about looking stupid in front of other people. These instructors are here to help make you safe. So resolve to attend a driving school of some sort this coming year. Number 7, resolve to be a more courteous driver. Now, I know what you're thinking. That statement coming out of my mouth as the car chick, because most of you know how I drive, but I try to be courteous within my aggressive driving. Because driving with a friendlier attitude, it's not just good for your own health and safety, it's good for everybody else around you and the safety around you. Give someone a little extra space when they're merging on the freeway. Allow another driver to turn, and pull in front of you instead of trying to force them out of your lane for no reason. It's just not worth the increase in your heart rate and your blood pressure and the extra aggravation and stress that it causes you. You know what? Maybe they didn't do what they were supposed to do on the road really well, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. Being a more courteous driver is just better for your health and for the safety of everybody around you. Road rage is just not worth it. A lot of people ask me, do you get road rage? And yeah, obviously, I do the weekly web series called Shut Up and Drive, which you can see on my YouTube channel at carchick-tv.com. And yes, I am irritated by bad driving and other things that I see on the road every single day, but I don't let it build up within me and I don't let it affect the way I treat other drivers on the road. Yes, my definition of defensive driving is having a good offense, but I have the skills to do that. But I don't let it bother me. And I think that's why I do the Shut Up and Drive series, because just doing a running commentary as if I was, commentating on a football game kind of gives me an outlet for that. Even if there's nobody in the car, I talk to Maggie, I talk to myself, whatever. And that helps. But I don't experience road rage. I don't. It's just not worth it. And I shake my head, I laugh it off, and I film a new episode of Shut Up and Drive. So do whatever you got to do. Do a little car yoga, relax your shoulders, roll them back, whatever you got to do to stay calm out there. Road rage is not worth it to anyone. Number 8, and this is something you'll definitely not see me doing, but I'm going to try to practice what I preach. Probably won't happen, but be a more fuel efficient driver. Aggressive driving, speeding, that can increase your fuel consumption by as much as 35%. I know this. I've done the math, and yes, I pay a lot more per year for gas as a result. But that's a decision that I have consciously made. It's something that's important to me. So, I'm just going to spend a little more money on the gas. But most people are very concerned about how much they pay at the pump every month. So, slowing down a little bit, giving yourself more time, planning your routes ahead of time so that you can minimize the amount of time you're stopped at traffic lights, idling, left-hand turns. UPS several years ago redid their whole logistics system so that their trucks make all right-hand turns, and they saved like some ridiculous amounts, like $10 million a year, whatever, on fuel costs. It's crazy how much that costs. So that leads into resolution number 9, which is kick the idling habit. It's bad for your wallet. It's bad for your vehicle. It's bad for the environment. So if you can figure out a way to just reduce the amount of idling that your car does for just 10 minutes a day, you could save, along with everybody else, a 1/4 ton of carbon dioxide emissions that get put into our environment. And you personally could save a good $100 a year simply by reducing the amount of time you're sitting there at idle. That's why a lot of the newer cars and engines have that feature where when you idle, it actually shuts the car's engine off. And then when you hit the gas, it restarts it again. Personally, that drives me absolutely nuts because then there's a delay when I hit the gas and my car goes. And I hate that, but I do recognize that it's not a bad feature for most drivers and the way they drive. And it is definitely better for the environment and increases your fuel efficiency. Those of you who live up north, I know, even down here, it was 16 degrees this morning here in Charlotte when we got up, and for us Southerners, that's just like the apocalypse, and we just turn around and go right back to bed and not leave the house. But that's just normal day-to-day stuff for when I was growing up in Wisconsin. And the rest of you that live up north, you want to turn on your car and let it heat up before you get in it. And when it's that cold, totally respect that. That's all about you not freezing your butt off. But a lot of people think that you have to let your car warm up for a long time to get the engine to warm up before you can drive away. You should do that for a couple of minutes, but you don't need to do it for 5, 10, 15 minutes. The newer cars have better starting technology. The oils, and you should be using the right kind of oil in your car for the winter that's designed to, get warm and viscous and fluidy faster. So you don't have to turn your car on and let it warm up for 10 to 15 minutes before you get in it. Most engines today with the proper oil will, get up to operating temperature within a minute or two, and then you can be on your way. Typically by the time you get the ice scraped off the windshield, you are really good to go. So just think about ways that you can reduce the amount of idling that you do to save the environment and save the pennies in your pocket on gas. Finally, New Year's resolution number 10. Consider giving someone else a lift. In other words, look for opportunities to carpool. Some states and cities have carpool lanes now where you're only allowed to drive in that lane if there's at least 2 or 3 adults, licensed drivers in the car. It doesn't count if you've got your 3-year-old and your newborn in the back because they couldn't drive anyway. That does not count as carpooling. But if you're carpooling with other parents and sharing the time of taking the kids all around to their activities, or, going to work with some of your coworkers who live nearby you, these are things that can really save you a lot of money on gas, especially if you're not in a place where there's a lot of really convenient public transportation. We have that problem in Charlotte. We've got an okay bus system. We have, 2 light rail lines, and if you live on them, great, and if you don't, forget it. But we have to do a lot of driving here. So look for opportunities to carpool with each other. It's better for the environment. It saves you on gas money, and it's a good opportunity to connect with the people around you, your friends, your coworkers, as long as it doesn't distract you from your driving. So folks, I hope you all have a happy and prosperous new year. Be safe and dare to take the road less traveled. I'm the Car Chick. Happy New Year. I'm out of here.
The Straight Shift Podcast is copyright LeeAnn Shattuck, the Car Chick, 2017. All views expressed by guest and or co-hosts are those of the guest and or co-hosts, and not necessarily those of LeeAnn Shattuck or the Car Chick.